What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, you're missing 90% of what's actually happening around you? Your brain is actively filtering out most of the information bombarding your senses every second, because your brain would literally shut down from sensory overload if it didn't. The visible light spectrum that allows you to see this screen represents merely a fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. Wi-Fi signals, radio waves, X-rays, and ultraviolet radiation are passing through your body right now, completely undetected by your conscious mind. Your perception is deliberately designed to be limited, focusing only on what your brain deems immediately relevant to survival. The reaching paradox: how movement creates your reality. Imagine reaching for your coffee cup right now. That simple action, one you've performed thousands of times, actually reveals something profound about how you experience reality. As your hand extends toward the cup, a complex symphony of neural activity coordinates your vision and movement, all happening beneath your conscious awareness. But here's what's fascinating. This coordination isn't just helping you interact with reality. It's actually creating your perception of reality itself. When you reach for that cup, your brain isn't simply processing visual information and then commanding your arm to move. Something far more extraordinary is happening. Your brain is constructing your entire experience of three-dimensional space through the very act of movement. The space you perceive, with depth, distance, and location, emerges from the relationship between your actions and the sensory feedback they generate. Before they can speak or reason abstractly, infants engage in reaching behavior, extending their hands toward colorful objects. This seemingly simple activity represents a profound developmental milestone. Through repeated attempts, their movements gradually refine, and simultaneously, they build their fundamental understanding of spatial relationships. Through physical interaction, they construct their perception of a three-dimensional world, a hidden symphony of neural connections forming with each reach. This insight has historical roots. In 1709, philosopher George Berkeley proposed a revolutionary theory that challenged conventional understanding of vision. Berkeley argued that vision itself has no inherent spatial meaning, that seeing distance, depth, and three-dimensionality isn't built into our visual system. Instead, he suggested that vision gains its spatial meaning only through its association with touch and movement. In other words, we see space because we can move through it and interact with it. Building upon Berkeley's intuition, modern neuroscience has provided compelling evidence for this connection. Consider patients with brain injuries affecting regions that connect visual processing with motor planning. These individuals can verbally identify objects perfectly. They recognize a coffee cup, but cannot coordinate an accurate reaching movement toward that same cup. Despite intact basic vision, they misjudge distances and miss targets. This condition, optic ataxia, reveals a profound truth. Your visual system evolved not primarily for passive observation, but for active engagement with your environment. Even more striking are experiments where subjects wear prism glasses that shift their visual field. Initially, they miss when reaching for objects. But remarkably, after a short adaptation period, they begin to reach accurately again. When the glasses are removed, they now miss in the opposite direction, revealing that their visual spatial mapping has been recalibrated. Their perception has literally shifted to maintain effective action in the world. The implications transform our understanding of consciousness. Your movements don't merely respond to perception. They actively shape what you perceive. This challenges the conventional view that perception is a one-way street, where sensory information flows in and motor commands flow out. Instead, perception and action form a dynamic loop, constantly informing and updating each other in an elegant neural dance. Think about catching a ball. You don't calculate its trajectory through complex physics equations. Instead, your visual system and motor system work together, constantly adjusting your hand position based on the ball's perceived movement, which in turn updates your perception of the ball's path. This perception-action loop happens so seamlessly that you experience it as a single, unified process. Neuroscientist Kevin Oregon describes this as sensoromotor contingencies, the lawful relationships between actions and the sensory changes they produce. According to this theory, your perception of reality is fundamentally a set of implicit understandings about how your movements will change your sensory experience. You perceive a cup as having a hidden backside because you implicitly know how your sensory experience would change if you moved around it. This framework forces us to reconsider perception itself. Rather than creating an internal replica of the external world, Perception might better be understood as a collection of skills for interacting with that world. When you perceive a coffee cup, you're activating a readiness to engage with it in specific ways. The cup exists for you as something graspable, liftable, drinkable. Its very perception shaped by these action possibilities. This connection between action and perception begins before birth. Ultrasound studies show fetuses making coordinated hand-to-mouth movements as early as 12 weeks, suggesting that the fundamental linking of movement and sensory feedback that builds our perception is already underway in the womb. By birth, this sensoromotor system has laid the groundwork for how we'll experience the world throughout our lives. The reaching paradox reveals something both humbling and liberating. Your perception isn't a window onto reality, but a tool forged by evolution to help you interact effectively with your environment. The space you experience, with its distances, depths, and locations, is constructed through the dynamic relationship between your actions and the sensory feedback they generate. Your brain constructs space itself through your physical interactions with the world. If this seems hard to believe, consider a simple experiment you can try right now. Close your eyes and move your hand around in the air. Notice how, even without vision, you have a clear sense of where your hand is in space. This spatial awareness comes from proprioception, your sense of body position, combined with your implicit understanding of how your movements relate to the space around you. Now open your eyes. The visual space you perceive isn't separate from this action-based understanding. It's fundamentally intertwined with it. Your brain's hidden gatekeeper. That spatial awareness we just explored is remarkable, but it's merely the entry point into a much deeper mystery about perception. What's happening in your brain, right now, is far more selective than you might imagine. Your prefrontal cortex is silently examining the flood of incoming sensory data and making executive decisions about what deserves your attention, creating a carefully curated version of reality that bears little resemblance to what's actually out there. Neuroscientists at Stanford University have discovered something remarkable. Your brain decides what you'll become conscious of several seconds before you're even aware of making that decision. By monitoring specific brainwave patterns, researchers can now predict which stimuli will reach your conscious awareness and which will be filtered out before you ever experience them. Your prefrontal cortex, that evolved part of your brain just behind your forehead, functions as a sophisticated gatekeeper, determining which aspects of reality get through to your conscious mind. This gatekeeper operates through distinct rhythmic patterns of neural activity. When researchers monitored brain waves during perception tasks, they found two specific frequency bands that showed predictive patterns. Slow waves between 1 to 9 Hz and faster beta waves between 20 to 40 Hz. When these waves synchronized in certain ways, a sensory input would break through to consciousness. This explains why you might miss important visual information when driving while tired. These neural rhythms become dysregulated, impairing the brain's ability to prioritize critical stimuli. Think about what this means. Your conscious experience isn't a direct window to what's happening around you. It's more like watching a heavily edited highlight reel where the director, your prefrontal cortex, has already decided what's worth showing you based on criteria you never consciously reviewed or approved. One of the most revealing windows into this filtering process comes from experiments on binocular rivalry. In these studies, researchers show completely different images to each eye simultaneously. Your visual system can't merge these conflicting inputs, so instead of seeing both images superimposed, your perception alternates between them, with one image dominating your consciousness for a few seconds before being replaced by the other. What's fascinating is what brain scans reveal during this process. Using functional magnetic resonance imaging, fMRI, scientists have observed that specific patterns of neural activity in the prefrontal cortex predict which image you'll become conscious of up to 7 seconds before you report seeing it. This means your brain has already decided which reality you'll experience long before you have any subjective awareness of that decision. Dr. Stanislas Dehaene, a neuroscientist at the Collège de France, describes this process as a neuronal gatekeeper that grants or denies access to conscious processing. His research shows that incoming sensory information must cross a threshold of neural activation to reach consciousness. This threshold constantly shifts based on attention, expectations, and the brain's current priorities. The filtering happens across multiple levels of your brain's hierarchy. At the most basic level, your sensory organs themselves have built-in limitations. Your eyes detect only a narrow band of electromagnetic radiation we call visible light. Your ears perceive just a fraction of the sound waves around you. More sophisticated filtering occurs in your brain's processing networks, particularly in the thalamus and prefrontal cortex, where neural activity determines what gets amplified into consciousness. This filtering system evolved for good reason. Your brain receives an estimated 11 million bits of information per second from your environment, but your conscious mind can process only about 50 bits per second. As cognitive scientist Anil Seth puts it, the brain's job is not to represent the world as it is, but to help you stay alive. This means it needs to be selective about the information it processes. Most of what's happening in your environment, even things your sensory organs detect, never reaches your conscious awareness. Your brain processes this information, but deliberately keeps it from you, creating a simplified model of reality that emphasizes what it deems relevant, while suppressing everything else. These filtering mechanisms shape your entire subjective reality. Take change blindness experiments, where significant alterations to a visual scene go completely unnoticed if they occur during a brief interruption. In one famous study, experimenters approached strangers asking for directions, and during the conversation, researchers were switched with entirely different people. Remarkably, about half the participants failed to notice they were suddenly speaking to someone completely different, a dramatic demonstration of how your brain constructs a simplified version of reality. Our conscious experience is so limited that some neuroscientists estimate we're aware of less than 0.01% of the information our brains actually process. For every conscious moment you experience, thousands of unconscious processes happen beneath the surface, shaping your behavior and decisions without your knowledge. This filtering isn't passive, it's predictive and anticipatory. Your prefrontal cortex actively predicts what sensory information is likely to be relevant based on past experience and current goals. This is why you can suddenly hear your name spoken in a crowded, noisy room. Your brain has tagged that particular sound pattern as high priority. These prefrontal filtering mechanisms can be temporarily disrupted, revealing how profoundly they shape our perception. Researchers using transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, can inhibit prefrontal function, allowing us to glimpse what perception might be like without these filters. When this brain region is inhibited, subjects report experiencing the world in an unusually raw, unfiltered way, as if suddenly aware of sensory details that were always there but previously suppressed. One participant described it as like seeing the world for the first time. Everything seemed more vivid and intense. Understanding this hidden gatekeeper forces us to reconsider fundamental assumptions about perception. Your conscious experience isn't a window to reality, but a useful fiction created by your brain. The sense that you're directly perceiving the world, as it is itself a construction, perhaps the brain's most sophisticated illusion. The forgotten sense, touch as reality's foundation. Beneath all these sophisticated neural filters lies something more primitive and essential, a sensory foundation we rarely acknowledge despite its constant presence. What would happen to your perception of reality if the sense that develops first, weeks before sight or hearing, was suddenly removed from your experience? Touch is the fundamental scaffold upon which your entire perceptual system is built. While we're captivated by the visual world and seduced by sound, our skin quietly maintains the most extensive sensory interface with reality. This vast network of receptors covers approximately 2 square meters of your body, containing between 600,000 and 4 million sensory points, depending on how they're counted. This silent system forms the boundary between you and not you, a distinction so basic to consciousness that we rarely question it. Touch begins its formative work remarkably early. By the 8th week of gestation, a human embryo responds to touch stimulation around the mouth. By week 14, nearly the entire body surface becomes sensitive to touch, long before the eyes can see or the ears can hear. This developmental timeline reveals touch's foundational role in how we construct our reality. Your skin contains specialized mechanoreceptors for specific sensations, Meissner's. Corpuscles detect light touch and texture. Pacinian corpuscles register vibration. Merkel's discs sense pressure and form. And Ruffini endings respond to skin stretch. Temperature-sensitive thermoreceptors and pain-detecting nociceptors complete this intricate network. Each receptor type sends information through distinct neural pathways, creating a multidimensional tactile map of the world around you. The power of touch lies in how it orchestrates your brain's development. Neuroscientist David Eagleman describes touch as the the scaffold on which all other sensory processing is built. When infants receive consistent, nurturing touch, their brains develop healthier neural pathways. The somatosensory cortex, the brain region processing touch, becomes properly organized, which then influences how visual, auditory, and other sensory systems develop. This developmental importance becomes tragically apparent when touch is absent. Studies of Romanian orphanages in the 1990s revealed devastating consequences for children deprived of normal physical contact. These children showed significantly reduced cognitive function, with IQ scores averaging 20 points lower than peers raised in typical environments. They exhibited rates of autism-like behaviors and psychiatric conditions nearly 10 times higher than normal populations. Dr. Mary Carlson, who studied these orphanages, observed, "These children received adequate nutrition and medical care, but they were desperately deprived of human touch and attention." The orphanages maintained strict schedules where babies remained in cribs for up to 20 hours daily with minimal physical contact. Their brain scans revealed dramatically reduced activity in regions associated with emotional regulation and social bonding, all stemming from touch deprivation during critical developmental windows. Research from Vanderbilt University demonstrates that early tactile experiences directly shape how the brain organizes itself to process all other sensory information. Using advanced brain imaging, researchers found that children with abnormal early touch experiences show altered connectivity between brain regions responsible for sensory integration, affecting everything from spatial awareness to visual processing. This biological reality explains why premature infants who receive regular kangaroo care, skin-to-skin contact, show dramatically better outcomes. Their heartbeats stabilize, oxygen levels improve, and their brain development accelerates. A 2018 study in the Journal of Perinatology found that preterm infants receiving just 3 hours of daily skin contact showed brain development equivalent to full-term babies by their original due dates. A remarkable acceleration of neural maturation driven solely by touch. What makes touch so developmentally powerful is its unique neural wiring. Unlike other senses, touch has direct pathways to the emotional centers of the brain, bypassing the higher cognitive filters that often process visual or auditory information. When someone touches your arm, that sensation travels directly to your insular cortex and limbic system, regions associated with emotional processing and bodily awareness, before you consciously recognize it. This direct emotional connection explains why touch can bypass cognitive defenses in ways other senses cannot. Studies of people with Alzheimer's disease find that while memories fade and language deteriorates, the emotional impact of gentle touch remains recognizable long after other communication forms become ineffective. Touch creates your basic sense of having a body at all. The constant stream of tactile feedback forms what neuroscientists call your body schema, the brain's internal model of your physical form. This schema provides the essential reference point from which all other perception extends. Without it, you couldn't interpret visual scenes in relation to yourself or locate sounds in three-dimensional space. Philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty recognized this when he wrote that touch provides us with the primordial relationship with the world. Unlike vision or hearing, which present reality as separate from ourselves, touch exists precisely at the boundary between self and world. When you touch an object, you simultaneously feel the object touching you, a reciprocal relationship unique among the senses. This reciprocity creates what cognitive scientists call enactive perception, the understanding that perception isn't passive reception, but active engagement. Your tactile system actively seeks information through movement. Watch a person picking up an unfamiliar object. Their fingers automatically explore contours, test weight, assess texture. This exploratory touching creates a neural map, far more detailed than vision alone could provide. Modern technology has demonstrated touch's primacy by attempting to remove it. Virtual reality developers struggled with simulator sickness until they recognized the problem wasn't visual but tactile. When visual information suggests movement while tactile feedback indicates stillness, the brain experiences profound perceptual conflict. Only by incorporating haptic feedback systems did VR become truly immersive. Touch-based metaphors pervade our conceptual thinking. We grasp ideas, wrestle with problems, and handle situations. These reflect how abstract thought builds upon physical experiences. Your understanding of abstract concepts like justice or truth derives partially from embodied tactile experiences of balance and solidity. Touch provides the embodied anchor for all other perceptual systems. Without the constant tactile updates from your body, other sensory information would lack context and meaning. Your visual system can tell you what objects exist in space, but only your tactile system can tell you how those objects relate to your physical existence. The prediction machine, your brain's sensory forecasting. Your tactile system anchors your perception to physical reality, but there's a remarkable architect behind all sensory experience that fundamentally changes how we understand perception. The truth is, your brain spends far more energy predicting what's about to happen than processing what's actually happening in the present moment. These predictions, not your raw sensory inputs, largely create the reality you experience. Consider what happens when you pick up a coffee mug. You might think your brain simply registers the sensations of touch, temperature, and weight as they occur. But neuroscience reveals something more sophisticated at work. Your brain generates predictions about how the mug will feel before your fingers make contact. It anticipates the coolness of the ceramic, the weight when lifted, and the resistance when tipped. What you consciously experience is shaped by these predictions, rather than the raw sensory data itself. This predictive processing framework, developed by scientists like Andy Clark and Carl Friston, suggests that your brain operates as a prediction machine constantly generating hypotheses about the world. Similar to how your phone's autocorrect anticipates what you're trying to type, your brain predicts sensory experiences before they happen. When sensory information arrives, your brain compares incoming signals against its predictions, focusing primarily on the differences between what it expected and what actually occurred. The brain's job is not to passively respond to the world, explains neuroscientist Lisa Feldman Barrett. Instead, it actively generates predictions that anticipate sensory inputs before they arrive. In her research, Barrett found that the brain uses stored knowledge from past experiences to predict nearly everything about your experience, from how objects will feel to how situations will unfold. When there's a mismatch between predictions and sensory reality, your brain has two options: update its predictions or reinterpret the incoming sensory data. Surprisingly, the latter often wins. Your predictions frequently override contradictory sensory inputs, essentially bending your experience of reality to match expectations. This explains why optical illusions feel so perplexing yet persistent. Take the hollow mask illusion, where a concave face mask appears to be convex when viewed from a distance. Your brain so strongly predicts faces to be convex that it overrides the contradictory visual information, suggesting the face is actually caving inward. Even knowing the truth doesn't break the illusion. Your predictions dominate your perception, creating an unsettling disconnect between what you know and what you see. The predictive nature of perception becomes evident when we examine eye movements. Your eyes constantly make rapid movements called saccades, about 3 to 5 per second. During these movements, which occupy about 10% of your waking hours, you're effectively blind. Yet you experience visual perception as continuous and stable because your brain predicts what you'll see before your eyes land on the next point. Neuroscientist Peter Ralphsiemer explains, the brain creates a stable perception not by faithfully representing each moment of visual input, but by predicting what should be there based on its model of the world and previous fixations. Without these predictions, the world would appear as a disorienting series of snapshots with brief blackouts between them. This explains why we're vulnerable to change blindness, where significant changes go completely unnoticed. In one famous demonstration, experimenters asked pedestrians for directions, while workers interrupted the conversation by walking between them carrying a door. During this brief interruption, one experimenter was swapped for another with different physical features. Remarkably, more than half of the participants failed to notice they were speaking to an entirely different person after the interruption. This happens because your brain doesn't process every detail of your visual field. It creates a sparse representation focused on elements it predicts will be important, filling in the rest with expectations. As cognitive scientist Anil Seth puts it, we're all hallucinating all the time. When we agree about our hallucinations, we call it reality. The brain's predictive nature is further revealed through sensory substitution devices that convert information from one sense into another. Devices that translate visual information into tactile sensations on the tongue have helped blind individuals see their environment. Initially, users experience these sensations as meaningless patterns, but after learning the relationships between movements and resulting sensory changes, they begin to perceive these signals as visual experiences. This illustrates how the brain learns to predict how sensory inputs will change with movement. Your perception of an object's location builds from these movement-linked predictions. That's why people can adapt to vision-distorting goggles that flip images upside down. Initially, the world appears chaotic, but within days, subjects begin to see normally again as their brains learn new prediction patterns.